Welcome to episode 16 of the Resurrection Podcast. I am Acusio Bivona. Let's talk about the lie. Not the lie you tell your board of directors. Not the lie you tell your shareholders. Not the lie you tell your spouse when she asks you if you're coming to bed and you say you just have a few more emails to clear. I want to talk about the lie you tell the man in the mirror. You know exactly which one I mean. I want you to place yourself in the exact environment where this lie is born. It happens on Sunday night. It's 10:45 p.m. You're sitting at the kitchen island. The house is completely silent. Your wife is asleep. The kids are asleep. The ambient glow of the refrigerator and the blue light of your laptop are the only illumination in the room. You're looking at your calendar for the week. The blocks of time are stacked like concrete. Back-to-back meetings. Strategic reviews, vendor negotiations. The emails are momentarily paused. The market is closed. And in this narrow, quiet window, you feel the weight of your own biology. Your joints ache. Your resting heart rate is hovering at 82 beats per minute. Your breath is shallow. And in that silence, you tell yourself the same thing you have said for the last 50 Sundays in a row. I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow, the diet starts. Tomorrow, I stop pouring the scotch to get to sleep. Tomorrow, I wake up at 5 a.m. I hit the pavement, and I reclaim my edge. Tomorrow, I'm going to be the father who actually plays with his kids instead of just watching them from the couch. It sounds like ambition. It sounds like a strategic directive. It sounds like a man taking command of his life. But it's not a command. It's a sedative. And deep down, in the core of your biological infrastructure, you know it. Because you know exactly what happens when 5 a.m. hits. The alarm goes off in the dark. The temperature in the room is cold. Your nervous system, flooded with residual cortisol from the previous day's stress and a lack of restorative sleep, rejects the command. Your prefrontal cortex negotiates. You hit snooze. Your biological infrastructure stays offline. You sleep for 40 more minutes of fragmented, useless rest. You wake up rushing. You skip the water. You pour the coffee. You get in the car. You go to the office. You manage the P&L. You direct your executive team. You negotiate the contracts. And you project absolute presence. You're winning the professional metric. You're a highly compensated, highly respected operator. But underneath the suit, underneath the title, you are dormant. The most dangerous man in the modern world is not the one who lies to his board. It's not the one who misrepresents his revenue. It's the executive who has mastered the art of lying to himself so efficiently that he no longer even registers the deception. Why does this happen? We need to look at the physics of the problem. Why can a man who commands an entire division of a multinational company, a man who manages $50 million in annual revenue, completely ignore his own internal commands? Let's drop the civilian concepts right now. It's not a lack of motivation. It's not because you're lazy. You didn't build your empire by being lazy. It's system lag. Your operating system is running on two completely different ledgers. You have your software and you have your hardware. When you sit at that kitchen island and say, I'll start tomorrow, your brain releases a microdose of dopamine. Your software gets the chemical reward of taking action, of setting a goal, of visualizing a better version of yourself. You get to feel like the man who has it all together, without encountering any of the physical friction of actually doing the work. It's cheap neurochemistry. Your prefrontal cortex writes a check that makes you feel productive in the moment. You feel relief. But your hardware, your central nervous system, your cellular biology, your endocrine system, keeps the real score. Every single time you make a promise to yourself and don't execute, you make a withdrawal from your internal self-trust account. I want you to conceptualize this as a literal financial ledger. 10 years ago, when you were hungry, when you were building, your self-trust account was fully capitalized. You said you were going to do something, and you did it. Your word was law. But for the last 5 to 10 years, as the complexity of your life scaled, you've been making silent withdrawals. You promised to train. You didn't. Withdrawal. You promised to eat clean. You ordered the ribeye and 3 martinis at the client dinner. Withdrawal. You promised to be present with your wife. You spent the evening checking Slack. Withdrawal. 1,000 silent, unkept promises. Today, your self-trust account is completely offline. The balance is absolute zero. And when your internal ledger is at zero, any new promise you make to yourself registers to your nervous system as a fraudulent check. Your own biology knows you don't have the capital to back it up. Your hardware looks at the software's command to wake up at 5 a.m. and run 5 miles, and it rejects the code. It says, "We don't have the funds for this transaction. We're staying in bed." This brings us to the trap. This trap is designed specifically for you. The founders, the C-suite, the directors, the men who are used to operating at massive scale. Because you execute at a high level professionally, because you're used to solving million-dollar problems with million-dollar solutions, you assume you can fix your personal dormancy with a massive, sweeping directive. You try to pay off a massive biological debt with a $1 million check. You look at your declining health, the 30 pounds of visceral fat around your midsection, the brain fog that hits you at 2 p.m. every day, and you write a massive protocol in your head. You tell yourself, starting Monday, I'm going to train 2 hours a day. I'm cutting all carbohydrates. I'm doing cold plunges at 4 a.m. I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes, and I'm going to run a marathon by October. You go out and you buy the expensive meal prep. You buy the high-end running shoes. You download 6 different optimization apps. You're trying to install a massive software update on hardware that hasn't been calibrated in 5 years. What happens? Your software writes the $1 million check. Monday goes well because you're running on the sheer adrenaline of novelty. Tuesday, the friction sets in. Wednesday, your cortisol spikes. Your central nervous system, which is already overtaxed by your professional demands, views this massive new physical stress not as an upgrade, but as an attack. By Thursday, the system lag catches up. You have a stressful board meeting. A deal falls through. Your nervous system demands an immediate return to baseline to conserve energy. You reject the meal prep. You order the takeout. You pour the scotch. You hit snooze on Friday morning. You revert to baseline. You're back offline. And you have just made another massive withdrawal from an already liquidated self-trust account. You can't execute at scale until you restore the baseline code. You're trying to command an operating system that no longer recognizes your authority. So how do we re-architect this? We don't use motivation. Motivation is a civilian emotion. It requires ideal conditions. It requires you to feel rested. It requires the sun to be shining. We're not civilians. We are operators. We use structure. We use science. We use the resurrection protocol. This specific sequence is called the Integrity Audit, and it's going to insult your ego. If you want to reactivate the machine, you have to follow this exact multi-step tactical intervention. Do not alter it. Do not attempt to scale it. Just execute. Step 1, the micro command. You must immediately stop writing million-dollar checks. You have to prove to your biological infrastructure that you can clear a $1 transaction. You need to issue a micro command that is laughably small. I mean microscopic. 1 glass of water the minute your feet hit the floor in the morning. Not a gallon, not a complex electrolyte matrix. 1 8-ounce glass of ideally filtered water, but tap water if that's all you got. Or 5 push-ups before you look at your phone. Not a chest routine, not a 45-minute circuit. 5 strict push-ups. That's it. It must be so small that your executive ego rejects it. Your ego will say, this is a waste of time. I run a company. I need to be doing more. Ignore the ego. The ego is what got you into this state of dormancy. We're not trying to burn calories. We're not trying to trigger hypertrophy. We're trying to clear a physiological transaction. We are proving to the hardware that when the software issues a command, the body complies. Step 2, hardware first. Software always follows hardware. You can't think your way into a new operating system. You can't journal your way out of a physiological deficit. The command must be physical. The body is the mechanism we use to reactivate the mind. When you physically execute the micro command, when you actually drop to the floor and do the 5 push-ups, feeling the tension in your triceps, feeling the sudden spike in your heart rate, you send a physiological signal to the brain that the system is coming back online. You're reestablishing the neural pathway between intention and execution. You're building a You are building a microscopic bridge over the canyon of your system lag. Every time you execute this physical movement, you're laying down myelin over that neural pathway, making the connection faster, stronger, and more automatic. Step 3, the calibration sequence. You run this micro command for 7 days. No deviations. No skipping because you have an early flight. No skipping because you were up late with a sick kid. And most importantly, you do not add to it. If you do your 5 push-ups on Tuesday and you feel a burst of motivation and you think, I should do 20, you stop at 5. You do not optimize it. You do not scale it. You just execute the exact command issued. Why? Because we are teaching your nervous system predictability. We're teaching it that your word is absolute. It doesn't fluctuate based on how you feel. It's a fixed metric. After 7 days, a fundamental shift occurs in your biology. Your self-trust account is no longer at absolute 0. You have deposited undeniable physical evidence into the ledger. You have cleared 7 consecutive $1 transactions. You are slowly, methodically re-architecting your presence. Your nervous system begins to downregulate. The baseline cortisol drops a fraction of a percent because your body realizes that there is an architect back in the control room. Only then, only after 7 perfect days of micro execution, do you earn the right to add the next command. Let me give you the data on what this actually looks like in the field. Let's look at the telemetry of a man who ran this exact diagnostic. Let's look at John. John is a vice president of sales, 42 years old, earning well over $400,000 a year. He manages a team of 40 reps across 3 time zones. Professionally, John was winning. He commanded the room. He delivered the quarterly projections. but his biological infrastructure was completely, dangerously dormant. We ran his blood panels. His A1C was creeping up to 5.9, firmly in the pre-diabetic range. His fasting glucose was sitting at 112. His sleep architecture was a disaster. He was logging 4 hours of fragmented, cortisol-soaked garbage at night. He would wake up at 2:30 a.m., his mind racing about Q3 pipeline, and he would lie there, paralyzed by a low-level anxiety that he masked with bravado during the day. John came to me doing exactly what we just discussed. He kept trying to write the $1 million check. He would fly to Chicago for a conference, tell himself he was going to hit the hotel gym at 5 a.m., but end up at the steakhouse until midnight, drinking double scotches to force his nervous system to sedate. By day 4 of any new health initiative, he was offline again. We ran the diagnostic. We stopped the massive directives. I forbid him from stepping foot in a gym for the first 2 weeks. We installed the Integrity Audit. His $1 command, a 10-minute walk every single morning. Not a run, not a ruck march, a 10-minute walk. Out his front door, down to the stop sign, and back. No phone, no business podcasts, no checking emails. Just physical execution. Putting one foot in front of the other and allowing his eyes to scan the horizon, which naturally triggers a parasympathetic response in the optic nerve, lowering stress. We did that for a week. 7 days of $1 transactions. Then we calibrated. We added hydration. 24 ounces of water before coffee. Then we calibrated his resistance training. We didn't do extreme boot camps. We programmed precise, controlled resistance to manage his central nervous system load without spiking his baseline cortisol. We rebuilt the ledger brick by brick. 90 days later, let's look at his metrics. John's A1C dropped back to a composed 5.2. He's logging 7 hours of restorative, deep sleep, spending adequate time in REM and slow wave architecture. His resting heart rate dropped 12 beats per minute. He has reclaimed his edge. When he walks into the boardroom now, he isn't running on the fumes of adrenaline and caffeine. He's operating from a state of cold, calculated resonance. And the relational return, the metric that actually matters when the laptop closes, his wife doesn't just see a provider anymore. For years, she saw a man who paid the mortgage but was essentially a ghost in his own house. Physically there, but energetically buried. Now, she sees a man who is fully composed. A man who's alive. He rebuilt the hardware, and the entire operating system stabilized. You have a choice tonight. It's going to be Sunday night again very soon. You can sit at that kitchen island, look at the glow of your laptop, review the calendar, and tell yourself the exact same comfortable lie. You can decide to stay dormant. You can keep managing your slow decline. You can keep writing fraudulent checks to your own biology until the system finally forces a hard shutdown. A cardiac event, a metabolic failure, or a silent, empty house. Or you can decide to reactivate. You can decide that your word is law. You can decide that the man who runs the company is finally going to run the machine that houses him. If you are tired of the system lag, if you are successful in the boardroom but silent in your own life, and you know deep in your biology, you are ready to re-architect the machine. Don't try to fix this with a burst of weekend motivation. Don't go buy a new pair of running shoes and pretend that will solve a fundamental code error. Go to coachkuz.com and apply for the Resurrection Strategy Call. This isn't a sales pitch. It's a system diagnostic. We will look at your hardware. We will look at your software. We will locate the exact point of lag in your daily architecture. And we will build the precise clinical protocol you need to restore the machine to optimal presence. Stop writing checks you can't cash. Rebuild the ledger. Resurrect the man. I am Acusio Bivona. I will see you in the work.